plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to want. And number 2, whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life and honor. Listen and hear these words of Jesus as recorded by Luke. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. May God add blessing to the reading, hearing, and living of his holy word this day.
Thanks be to God.
So last week we began a series on how we might think about how we could live more simply and give more generously, and in doing that find contentment. And I just want to remind you again that insert in your bulletin on the side opposite the list of the saints that we'll be remembering in a little bit are some extra questions and a prayer for the week. And if you would like to use those for further reflection during your prayer times during the week, that would be great. So last week we looked at the American dream and how the American dream sometimes becomes the American nightmare. And the American dream becomes a nightmare when we continually try to get more stuff, where we base our self-worth on how much we own, and trying to measure up to someone else's idea of what is success. We talked about how trying to keep up with the Joneses happens across all socioeconomic classes, and it's generally a result of people trying to live beyond their means. And so when we look at that idea of this juggling act that so many people are living, trying to have all they want and not have enough funds, and what that means with our borrowing and our debt, and how it is that we find ourselves digging a hole deeper and deeper, never being able to see where we might get out of that. And hopefully what we do and how we look at things this next few weeks will give us some ideas of what it is that we do to ourselves when we try to live this way, and how we might live a more contented life without needing so much. Now, if you're not one of those folks that struggles with money, that you have sufficient funds, it might be the question for you, rather than not worrying so much about debt. But if you have sufficient funds, perhaps you have become a little too free with your spending, let's say. Perhaps you, I don't know, put money in your pocket and in a few days there's nothing there and you can't remember what it is that you spent it on. So having plenty of money doesn't mean that you aren't also being wasteful with what you have. And so I think we all can agree that we're all in these categories in some sense, and that we all have something that we can learn about being more careful with the gifts that God has given us. And so today I want us to look and take another step and look at biblical wisdom and basic money management. And in case you doubt that there's anything in the Bible about money management, you're wrong, there is. A couple of scriptures already alluded to that, even though they might not have used the familiar terms of cash and money. They did talk about possessions and what you treasure and what's important. And so you might already be familiar, maybe you're one of those folks that is good with money and managing money and planning and budgeting and all those things. And so this, but I think we all can remind ourselves, even if we're good at this, how it is that we might be better at it, and how it is that it affects us and how our lives go. And one of the stories that's often told from Scripture about squandering resources is the story of the prodigal son. And maybe you remember that story. The younger son asks for his inheritance early and takes it and goes off and squanders it. And the Bible actually uses that word, squanders it, on all kinds of good things to have a good time. And it is a story, certainly, about God's love for us and about God welcoming us back, taking us back, even when we are squandering everything that God has given us. And that God will always welcome us back home. that you can relate to about wandering away and those kinds of things, but actually the literal translation for the word prodigal means one who wastes money. Not one who wanders away and gets back, but one who wastes money. So who of us has not been a prodigal at one time or another? Yeah, I thought that might get you. You see, what happens is that the prodigal was concerned with just his needs for the day. He didn't have concern for what might happen on down the road. He wasn't planning ahead. He didn't put anything back, for a rainy day. And the problem with not planning for the future and only living for today, eventually famine is going to come some way, somehow in our lives. And it comes when those times when we've maybe spent everything we have, even maybe we've gone in and borrowed a little bit on next month's money or next year's money, and then an unexpected emergency happens. Car breaks down, the air conditioner goes out, or a medical event costs you more than you might imagine, and then you realize there's nothing left there to draw on. So what do we do? Our lives have purpose, and our lives have more purpose than just enjoying the moment. The things that we do when we live in the moment become less and less satisfying over time until we come to a place where nothing that we do satisfies us. And often we find that we don't have any money, that we're broke, and we have nothing to show for it. And sometimes I think we take our money and our talent and our time for granted, and we don't use it wisely. And when I'm talking about taking good care of resources, I'm not talking just about money, but I'm also talking about how we budget our time, how we spend our time with family or friends, or if we don't take the time, that we're so busy pursuing dollars and fun that we forget that our time is something we also need to budget and be careful with. Everything that we use in a wasteful way, whether it's dollars or time, could be used for something more meaningful, something that might have a longer lasting impact than just the moment. And those moments in time and those dollars that we could have saved or invested or given to help someone, support someone in their time of need, we've lost those opportunities. And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't ever have any fun or spend any time or money on ourselves. I believe that good self-care is important. And I'm not suggesting that we need to be so miserly that we don't enjoy and have the necessities of life, because you can go way to the opposite end of the spectrum if you're not careful. But there are a couple of things that I've learned about as I've been doing reading, that there are a couple of things that are big money wasters. We'll talk about time in a minute. And before I start, I want to do a disclaimer like I did last week. I'm not saying you should not do these things at all. I'm just saying you need to do them thoughtfully and carefully. And as my dad used to say, preacher, you've gone from preaching to meddling. And I'm not going to try that. I don't want to be seen as a meddler. But the first thing that wastes our money in general for people is impulse buying. I was preparing my sermon this week, and the example that I'm going to give you, I did this. So just let me say, I'll tell you that right up front. So, impulse buying. I'm one of those. I do that. I'm a kind of an emotional buyer too. If I'm upset or happy or whatever, I feel like I need to go out and spend money. That just happens. And maybe you had that experience. But my experience this week, and it happens all the time, I'll tell you, is maybe you had this experience. You go to the grocery store and you have things that you need to get, right? And you walk into the store, and on your way to get to the thing that you need to get, you pass some things that look really good, and you pick those up too. And you know how it goes. And pretty soon, if you haven't, see, this is what I do. I don't get a cart when I go in because I only need one thing. And then I end up doing that juggling act where you try to get everything into your arms and hands without spilling it over, well, you know, that happens too. But anyway, by the time you get to the thing that you need, your arms are full because you've picked up things along the way that well, maybe it was on sale or it was something that just looked good, who knows. By the time you get to the checkout line, your arms are full and you've spent $50 instead of $5. Anybody have that experience? Folks, that's called impulse buying. They tell us, and I know this is true, and I've tried to do this, they tell you to make a list, stick to it, and never go to the grocery store when you're hungry. They say if you see something else that's not on the list, write it down and for the list that you will have for next time. Okay? So that's the trick, they say. If you see something that's not on the list, put it on another list, and that's what you're going to put on the list for next time, so that you're not buying stuff you really don't need at this time. Now maybe impulse buying food isn't your thing. Maybe it's those great sales they have at the clothing store, where you go in and you need to buy a pair of shoes or a pair of jeans or a shirt or something, and you discover that there's other things that are on sale. And so you pick out something that you don't have any really need for, but it's on sale. And you get it home and you try it on or you show it to a friend and they go, boy, that doesn't really look good on you. And now you have this thing that not only are you not going to wear, but you can't take back because it was on sale. And so it hangs in your closet until such a time that you finally decide to do something with it, give it away. They say that if you see something like that, a sale or an item that you think you need, that you really don't need, but it looks good, that you should wait 24 hours. And then say that you'll come back in 24 hours and purchase it. And they'll say you'll be surprised how many things you won't need and that you won't go back to the store to get that thing that you might have picked up on an impulse. Well, the next thing that they say is a money waster is eating out. I also did this week. And let me remind you again, I'm not saying that you should never eat out, but perhaps thinking about how many times you eat out is a place to start. They say that the average American eats out 4 times a week. I don't know, maybe you're less, maybe you're more. But they estimate that if a family of 4 were to order just something simple like burgers and fries and drinks at a sit-down restaurant, it would cost anywhere from, let's say, $50 to $60. That depends on where you live and what restaurant you eat at, of course. So if they were to eat out 4 times a week, 52 weeks a year, that would be approximately $12,000 a year. If you would buy the ingredients and prepare those meals at home, you would save about $6,000 a year. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot when you're eating out because you're only paying $10 or $12 or whatever it is to eat out. If you can eat out for less than 10, and eat, well, I guess you can eat on the dollar menu at Taco Bell or McDonald's or something, but you know, $10 doesn't seem like a lot of money. I mean, come on, we waste $10 without even thinking about it. But if you add those $10 up and it's $20 or $30 a week, and then you multiply that times 52 weeks out of the year, it's a good chunk of change. That money could be saved or spent on something that would last a little longer than that Big Mac or whatever it is that you eat. And so think about it. This is a place to start. When the thing that comes to my mind is that I often say, no, I don't have money to do that. And I think, well, it got me to thinking, if I ate out once less time a week or a month and put that money into a separate little keepsake place, and every time I thought about eating out but changed my mind and went home and ate instead, because goodness knows I've got lots of stuff I could eat at home, I think I would be surprised, and I think you might be surprised too, just how much we don't think about spending because it seems like such a trivial amount at the time. It's only $10 or $5 or whatever it is. But I think that we need to think about these things because these are the kinds of things that help us to determine what our purpose is in life. And that's really what I want to talk about today, is how is it that we think about our purpose in life. And our purpose in life, society would tell us, is just to consume. Get as much as you can, consume as much as you can, and then there you go, that's life. But I think that our plan for our life is more than that. I think we were put here on earth for greater things than just acquiring and consuming things. And I think where we spend our money needs to be consistent with what we understand our life purpose is. And so maybe you've asked this question, maybe you've already thought about this, but I can tell you that thinking about this week, I thought, I don't know that I've actually sat down and written this down. What is it that I want to accomplish in my life? And I know a lot of you are older, in your golden or silver years, whatever term you want to use. Copper, whatever. I'm just saying, and you don't ever get to a point in your life, I believe, when you don't need to have some plan of something that you want to do or something that you want to achieve. And if you don't have something in your life that's important to you that you look forward to, that's not healthy, folks. Just sitting around and waiting for life to happen isn't a good way to spend your life. We need to have a plan. So I want you to think about this, regardless of how old you might be. Where do you see yourself in a year, or 2 years, or 5 years? What is it that you want to do? Things you want to see, people you want to talk to, relationships you want to develop. I don't know, whatever it is, what is it that you want to do? And how does that fit in with what you think the plan for your life is? And I think you'll find that the answers to these questions are very important, because these answers to these questions will help to determine how you will spend your time and your money. We were put on this earth, I believe, to be a blessing to others, not to be consumers. And I think that we have biblical references that tell us this. If you look back in Genesis, in the 12th chapter, where God speaks to Abraham, God tells Abraham, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to bless your name. Your descendants, you maybe know, will be as numerous as the stars in the skies, as countless as the grains of sand. And I will make you great among all nations. Abraham, God is saying, you are going to be a blessing to others. You see, I think that's why we have our lives. That's our purpose in life. Not to be satisfied and look just to satisfy our own needs from day to day. But I think that we were created as part of God's creation to be loving and kind to our neighbors and friends and family. That we were created to be in family. That we were created to glorify God, and that we were created to seek justice and love kindness and do mercy. I think that's our purpose in life. And so if we really believe that this is our purpose in life, then our money and our possessions and our time should be devoted to helping us fulfill that purpose, that calling. And so certainly, if you're going to start out and say, what is my purpose in life? Let's take as an example. My purpose is to take care of my family, because you have family that needs you. That's a purpose. And then the purpose goes on further down the road and said, well, so how is it that I'm going to take care of those that are in need? Maybe that's one of your purposes in life. And so how is it that you spend your time and your talent doing that? And how is it that all of these resources that you've been given, and it doesn't matter if it's a lot or a little, we still need to manage our resources and use them to the best of our ability to be a blessing to others. Because I think that is why we have been given this life that we've been given. Money seems to be a motivation for lots of folks, and certainly money is a necessity. That's what is required to be able to have these things and provide for families. That's how we operate. That's how our business works. But money should never be an end to itself. If you put down my purpose in life is to make a lot of money, I want you to go back and rethink that. Because I don't believe that's the purpose of our lives. Money should be a help for us to accomplish the things that we have set out as our life's purpose. Money should be used as a tool to accomplish these things, not as a thing in and of itself. Remember, it says in Scripture, money isn't the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. So the problem becomes, how do we value our lives? What do we see the purpose in our life being? And how is it that we use our resources to accomplish those purposes? And I just want to say again, it doesn't matter how old you are, you still have a purpose in life. So how do we spend our resources to reflect the understanding of who we are and what God calls us to be? Once you have this sense of purpose, once you have an idea of what it is that you want to accomplish, the things and goals that you have in mind, then begin by asking yourselves, how is it that I'm going to accomplish those things? What do I need to do? If it's about finances to be able to do those things, then how is it that you set aside finances to do those things? And it might be that you can only set aside a nickel a day or $1 a week, but there is something that you are purchasing with your money that you could do without, everyone. The plan is what gives you those concrete steps to get to be where you want to be, to help you accomplish your goals. And the truth of the matter is that, basically, there's two things. We can either make more money or spend less. That's it. So if you can't make more money, and a lot of us, we're in that situation where our money is defined by someone else. So if we can't make more money, then the only thing we have control of is how we spend it. And if we want to have more to spend, we have to learn to control what we spend and control what we do and do it in wise and caring ways. It's important for us to remember that we need to do things with our resources that last longer than just that slice of pizza or that new pair of shoes or whatever it is that we've spent our money on that goes away and if you can't remember what it is that you bought a month ago. And I want to ask you to think about this as you think about the plan and think about how you're achieving that plan and understanding that you've been called by God to be caring and loving and kind and giving to the world. I want you to think about who you would admire most. Someone who lives on the edge of their means and cannot do things that really matter in life, either for themselves or for someone else, or someone who lives below their means and lives a meaningful life of purpose. Would you admire one who lives extravagantly or the one who gives extravagantly? We can all live and give extravagantly if we look at how we spend our time and money. And it comes from doing things that go beyond ourselves. And when we go beyond ourselves, we learn to live a more simple life. We learn to live a more generous life. And we learn to live a more contented life. Remember those words of that Shaker's song, Simple Gifts. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free.